What's up, meatbags? It's the often imitated, never duplicated Tony TGD, and this is Wrestling with Facts. Today, we're going to be talking about the Anderson wrestling family. Now, the Anderson wrestling family started off with a man named Gene Anderson. He is one of two members of the family who is actually named Anderson legally. Now, Gene, he was wrestling for a while. Eventually, he picked up a tag team partner, and this was the second member of the Anderson family. This was Lars Anderson. Lars, whose real name is Larry, he changed it to Lars, changed his last name to Anderson, became Gene's kayfabe brother. They wrestled for years as a tag team, but eventually they added a third member to the family, a third member to the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, Ole Anderson. Again, changed his name, became a member of the Anderson family, became a brother to Lars and Gene. He would go on to wrestle with Lars and Gene in the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. Eventually, Lars would move out to Hawaii, leaving Ole and Gene alone to wrestle together. And for a while, that was pretty much it. It was just Ole and Gene. But eventually, in about 1983, they added a new member to the team, and that would be Arn Anderson. Probably one of the most famous members of the Anderson family, a member of the Four Horsemen, alongside Ole. You know, he's been pretty much the only person besides Ric Flair to be in almost every incarnation of the Horsemen. So, Arn Anderson, he joined the team. Now, eventually, Gene Anderson decided to open up a wrestling school. So he hired a few wrestlers, hired a head trainer. His head trainer was going to wrestle on the independent circuit. And Gene gave him his blessing. He said, hey, you know, you wrestle like an Anderson. We're going to make you an Anderson. That's Rocky Anderson. Like I said, Gene gave him his blessing. He was wrestling on the independent circuits. Eventually, somebody had contacted Rocky, said, hey, I got a kid, looks like an Anderson, works like an Anderson. Maybe you could contact Gene, give us your blessing, we'll turn him into an Anderson. Rocky reached out to Gene. They both took a look at the kid, and Pat Anderson was born as a kayfabe member of the family. No relation established other than he was a Anderson. Eventually, Pat would run into somebody who he thought was also a good fit for the Andersons, a gentleman by the name of Christopher Wright. However, Gene had passed away by then, so Pat reached out to Rocky Anderson. Rocky gave Pat his blessing to give the kid the Anderson name if the kid fit the bill, and thus C.W. Anderson was born. Also, no relation given. Now, what's funny is C.W. Says that he got the blessing from Gene. Gene was passed away by then, so the blessing only could have come through Rocky. According to Arn Anderson, he said that he gave him the blessing, that he was not going to deny anybody the ability to work and feed their family. On another side note, since I did mention Arn Anderson is actually married Ole Anderson's daughter. So if Arn, who was billed as either a cousin or brother of Ole, was actually related to him, that would be kind of a messed up situation. But, those weren't the only Andersons wrestling, because you see, Gene also had a son who decided to wrestle, Brad Anderson, the second actual Anderson in the family. Now, Brad didn't make it. He was less than impressive. Eventually retired. But, Ole, his son also decided to have a shot at wrestling. That was Bryant Anderson. He wrestled in WCW very briefly. Had a cup of coffee in WCW. Didn't make much noise. Now, currently, Arn Anderson's son, Brock Anderson is also a wrestler. He's wrestling for AEW. So we have he's the newest member of the Anderson clan. Now, there was a wrestler who became very, very famous, and a lot of people don't realize this, but he was billed as a cousin of the Andersons. Now, of course, I'm talking about Ric Flair. Ric Flair is technically part of the Anderson family. As I said, he is a cousin to Arn and Ole. So, of course, Ric Flair, part of the family. Now, before Ric Flair became part of the Anderson family, he actually wanted to wrestle as somebody else. So a little extra fact we're going to throw in. You see, this here is a early image of a 300-pound Ric Flair from when he debuted. His original gimmick that he decided on was Rambling Ricky Rhodes. You see, Ric Flair was actually trying to become a member of the Rhodes family. He wanted to bill himself as the brother of Dusty Rhodes. Ironically, the individual who become one of his biggest rivals in the sport. But unfortunately for him, Dusty said no. He put the nix on that idea. So we never got Rambling Ricky Rhodes. But that would have been interesting, I think. But since Ric Flair is a member of the Anderson family, obviously that means David Flair, his son, who wrestled in WCW, is also a member of the Anderson family. And his other son, Reed Flair, who passed away, but had a brief stint in wrestling before then, would also qualify as a member of the Anderson family. And additionally, his daughter, Charlotte Flair, once again, would be a member of the Anderson family. Now, there's one more individual who could technically be considered an Anderson. You see, when Ric Flair was first starting out, like I said, he was billed as a cousin of Ole and Arn. However, he was also billed as the nephew of another wrestler. He was billed as the nephew of Rip Hawk. Now, it was never established how that familial connection was made, whether or not Rip Hawk would be a member of the Andersons, maybe married to an Anderson sister, or if Rip Hawk would be on the other side of Ric's family, and not related to the Andersons. So, if you really wanted to, if you wanted to squint your eyes and consider it, Rip Hawk could possibly be considered a member of the Anderson family. Now we have three more individuals whose names come up with the Andersons. Now we got Andrew Anderson, who is not a member of the Anderson family. He was wrestling under his real name, I believe, when eventually, his gimmick became tired. He was basically performing as a Cold War era Russian. So Angelo Savoldi told him, hey, that's not going to fly no more. The Cold War is over. You need a new gimmick. Let's make you an Anderson. So Angelo Savoldi decided to make Andrew Anderson come to life. Not an official Anderson. Never got the blessing of Gene. Never got the blessing of Ole, Arn, or Lars, or Rocky. No one connected through Gene. He was just basically some random wrestler that they decided they were going to capitalize on the Anderson name. Now, additionally, Machine Gun Carl Anderson has the same problem. Basically, he wrestled like an Anderson. So some promoter decided, hey, we're going to give you the name Carl Anderson, and we're going to bill you as a relative of the Anderson clan. Eventually, Carl Anderson got away from that. He doesn't claim it anymore. It's no longer part of his gimmick. He never really felt comfortable with it anyway. So he said, hey, don't count me. I'm not an official Anderson. Now, There is one more individual who people claim is an Anderson. I haven't been able to find any proof. I can't even find a photo of this individual. It's someone called T.C. Anderson. But again, he's just supposed to be some independent wrestler who decided to use the name, use the family. So we're not going to count him as an official member of the Anderson clan. So here's the list. Anderson family. We got Gene, Lars, Ole, Arn, Rocky, Pat, CW, Brad, Bryant, Brock. With, of course, cousins Rick, David, Reed, Charlotte, and the possible relative Rip Hawk. And, of course, the fake Andersons, Andrew, Carl, and TC. So there you have it, folks. You know how we do it on this channel. Love, peace, booty grease. I'm out this